Module 3, Mode of Transmission of Parasite. Mode of Transmission of Parasite. Learning objective. This module will focus on the various route of transmission of parasite between hosts. In other words, how parasites are transmitted between hosts will be dealt in the chapter. Parasites are commonly transmitted through ingestion of parasite contaminated food and water, beside other routes such as skin penetration, intranasal transmission, coitus, and congenital transmission. Each mode of transmission will be dealt in detail with suitable example. Introduction. Parasites have distinct route of entering a host, and parasite enter the host in general through natural opening on the exterior of the body or through the skin. Parasites are transmitted from one animal to another. Injection, skin penetration, contact, predation, coitus, transplantation, or transmammary transmission through injection. The most common mode of transmission of parasite is through ingestion. The host may become infected by direct ingestion of an infective stage through contamination of food and water, or by ingestion of an intermediate host or transport host containing infective stage. For parasite with direct life cycle, the infective stage via a containing the second larva stage, ascarid, cyst, and amoeba and giardia, and oocyst, coccidia, find their way into the feed and water of the host, thereby gaining access to the host or the infective state. Third larval stage may climb up to vegetation and weight of the host to ingest. For parasite with indirect life cycle, the host becomes infected by ingestion of an intermediate host or transport the host containing infective stage. In certain parasites, the definitive hosts are infected through ingestion of infective stage, larval stage, or intermediate host. Fish for Diphyllobothrium lectum and crab for Paragonium species, and through ingestion of raw or undercooked meat or organ or milk of intermediate host, Taenia sodium, Echinococcus granulosus. Through skin penetration. After mouth skin is the most common route of entry for many parasites. The infective stage of the parasite may actively penetrate the skin, and in the process, the secretion of the parasite help to digest the host tissue. Carcari in cystosomas. Penetration of the host skin is the predominant route by which the infective larvae of hookworm enter their host, although they are also entered through the mouth. Certain parasites enter the host via the bite of an intermediate host, surviving as a vector. These parasites develop in blood, sucking insects and ticks, and when these vectors feed to obtain the blood and tissue fluid from host, the infective stage of the parasite are introduced into the host. Contact and predation. Parasites are transmitted between animals by contact, especially when they are confined in shed or house. Example: lice infestation and menace is chiefly transmitted between animals by contact. Parasites are also transmitted during predation by a host. For example, when cat predates on rat, cat may acquire an infection with parasite. Early throat nostril. Entry through nostril. Ostrich ovis, the nasal board fly, deposits its young larvae around the nostril of the host, when upon the crawl upward and enter the nasal sinuses. Naegleria fowleri, a freshwater amoeba present in surface water or polluted pools, gain access to the host through the intestinal route. Entry through external genitalia. Trichomonas fetus, the protozoan parasite that causes abortion in cattle, and Trypanosoma equiperdum, the protozoa that cause during in horses, are transmitted during coitus. Transplantation or transmammary transmission. Transplantation, transplantal or prenatal infection refer to transmission from mother to fetus across the placenta, as in Toxocara canis, and transcolostral or transmammary transmission refer to transmission from infected dams to nursing offspring via colostrum or milk, as in Toxocara vitellorum or Toxocara cati. Module 4. Method of dissemination of the infective stage of parasite. Method of dissemination of the infective stage of parasite. Introduction. Most of the parasites have the host passive through excretion of the host, mainly exit from the host through feces as egg, ascari, strongylos, fluke, etc., cyst, anamoeba, giardia, and oocyst coccidia. Few exit through urine. Example: cystisomal hematobium, Staphylococcus dentatum, and some larvae through genital discharge. Example: Trichomonas fetus. Some parasites are embedded by arthropod inadvertently when they feed on a host. Example: malaria parasite transmitted by mosquito, while the extra-intestinal stage of parasite may be removed from the host during predation, and the parasite subsequently infect the predator and leaves it passively through their faces, cyst forming coccidia. Dissemination of parasite. Dissemination of parasite. Permanent ectoparasites such as loss and flea exit the host actively by either crawling or jumping onto another host during moment of contact between hosts. Few parasites exit actively from the host mother to their fetuses through placenta transuterine route. Example: Toxocaraganis, Toxoplasma gondii. Some parasites leave the host through the medium of milk to infect the young one. Transmammary route. Example: Toxocara vitullorum, Toxocara cati. Method of dissemination of infective stage of parasite. Method of dissemination of infective stage of parasite. Once parasites are outside the host, they have to survive in the environment until they find a suitable host. As the environmental conditions are generally adverse to their survival, the infective stage of parasite are endowed with resilience. These resistant stages have the capability to survive the adverse condition and remain effective to find a host. Temperature and moisture are two important factors that facilitate or deter parasite survival and development. Parasites generally do not develop below 10 degrees Celsius or above 40 degrees Celsius when climatic conditions are hostile. Freezing temperature parasite causes development in host, arrested development, and wait for the condition to improve before they resume development and discharge their egg in feces. Dispersal of parasite. Parasites are disseminated in the environment mechanically through the agency of water and fomite beside human interventions. Water is an important agent for dissemination of parasites, especially for those that require an aquatic habit of for development. Eggs for many trematode larvae of Dracunculus etc. Trematode whose intermediate host are aquatic snail are carried by the surface water into water body where they develop in aquatic snail. Similarly, larvae of Dracunculus require water body for gaining access to cyclops. Parasites that require aquatic habitats for development, such as mosquito and black fly, are carried to long distance by streams and rivers. Human interventions such as construction of irrigation canal directly facilitate breeding of snails, thereby aiding dissemination of trematode parasite. Beside adding breeding of insect, the use of sewage and sludge to fertilize pasture is another potential method of dissemination of parasite. Fomites such as insects mechanically disseminate the parasite from one place to another. The fungus Pilobolus aid in the dispersal of the lungworm infective larvae from fecal part to the pasture, thereby facilitating infection of cattle host, while animal host may serve as a reservoir of infection for domesticated livestock. Wild reservoir hosts are important factor in the epidemiology of fasciolosis. Overcrowding of hosts also facilitated dispersal of parasite. Parasite-induced host behavioral changes. Metacercaria of dicrocolium enter the brain of ant and paralyze them, thereby adding dissemination of parasite-infected ant for herbivorous during grazing. Grasshopper infected with tetramer and beetles infected with cysticercoids of tapeworm become less, thereby facilitating ingestion of definitive host. Ruminant heavily infected with high disease become debilitated, making them easier prey for carnivores. Strategy adopted by parasite to infect host. Some parasite employ certain strategy to augment their chances of finding a host. Liver fluke insist on green part of plant and on higher part of the plant to facilitate ingestion by herbivorous host. As cattle are reluctant to feed on herbaceous near faces, the motile gravid segments of Tinea saginata leave the faces to contaminate the herbage and increases its chances of being eaten by an herbivorous as against the non-motile gravid segment of Tinea solium, which does not have to leave the faces because pig being coprophagic consume the feces and pick up the infection. Some parasites are endowed with sensory organisms to locate host. Warmth, CO2, fatty acid, MNCTC serve as stimuli for parasites, especially arthropod, to locate host. Thank you.